All right, all right, all right. Hi, everybody. Give me a second. And Shipwrecked. And I don't really have a title. We're just going to let God do what he does. I did take some notes. And I got y'all. I got you. So whenever y'all ready, we about to get it. One take, one take, one take. Good. Okay. 3, 2, 1. Hi everyone, this is Pastor Lindaria, and I'm coming to you live again on Wednesday on for not one take, two take. I don't need correction. Thank you. Okay, y'all finna go to bed if y'all finna mess me up. For real, we gotta be serious. 3, 2, 1. Hi everyone, this is Pastor Lindaria, and we're back again on Wednesday with another word from God. And today I'm just going to title it Shipwrecked. Shipwrecked. That is my title. And honestly, I've been working on this for the last 3 weeks. I did a little segue into it last week, but not how I really wanted to get into it. So today we're going to start off a little bit different, and I'm going to start off with the exercise. And although you're not physically in front of me, I want you to participate in this with me. So right now, wherever you are, I need you to close your eyes and take a deep breath in and let it out. We're about to go on a journey. I need you to think back. And I need you to think back to a time where you thought you were not going to make it. I need you to think back to a time where you were scared. I need you to think back to a time where you needed God. And if you did not get God to come in, you do not know what was going to happen. I need you to go back to your but God moments where no one but God could get you out of the situation that you probably got yourself into or probably were even born into. I need you to go all the way back. And after you go all the way back, I need you to come to Acts 28 with me. Today, we're going to talk about how Paul needed God to show up in a major way. We're going to talk about how Paul went from the prison until he had his grand exit from prison until being shipwrecked. And I can only imagine how Paul was thinking like, dang, I made it out of prison. We escaped out of bondage. And now I'm on this boat and I'm trying to warn these people like, hey, the boat is going to crash. We're not even supposed to be here. And now I need God again to show up like he's never showed up before. God, I know you got me out of this. God, I know you got me out of this. But right now, God, if you don't show up, I don't know what's going to happen. From being in prison to his grand exit, to being left for dead while everyone watches. How many of you have been left for dead in your lifetime? How many of you have been abandoned in your lifetime? How many of you have heard the words that you are nothing and that no one wants you? Who are you? How many of you have been at your lowest? And how many times have God stepped in? See, in this lifetime, people love to underestimate you. Not really you, but the God that is inside of you. People love to put you as the underdog. But we serve a God that loves to make examples out of the underdogs. We serve a God that loves to take a nobody and bring them to a somebody. We serve a God that will take a Christian killer and make him an apostle. We serve that kind of God. See, Paul was known as a Christian killer, so he had no real value to man except for bloodshed. See, we can be blindsided by our own sins until God sits us down and he gives us clear vision and we're able to see again. If you think about Paul, all he ever did was persecute Christians until Jesus came and said, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? He had to sit him down and blind him for a second to let him see that I am the light and that without me, you cannot see your way out of anything. Sometimes we are so busy worried about other people's sins that we are blinded by our own sins. And the only way that we can come out is if God opens up our eyes again. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? See, Saul thought he was just doing what he was doing until Jesus had to come down and let him see that he was persecuting not only him, but everything else. And in Saul's eyes, he was right. How many of us have been dead wrong in our own eyes, but we just keep saying that we're right, until God has to get in our chest? See, sometimes we can be the problem. It's easy to point out other people's sins. It's easy to see other people's sins, but it's so hard to turn that mirror back and look at ourselves. Sometimes the enemy is the enemy. Sometimes we're our own problem. But we're so busy being right in our own eyes that we don't realize that we're dead wrong until God has to sit us down. Until he has to sit us down and we have to see for our own self that, yes, I was persecuting people. Yes, I was a liar. Yes, I was a thief. Yes, I was addicted. Yes, I was all of these things. But then God set me down. And God had to mold me. And God had to change me. And maybe for a time period, God had to blind me. So I couldn't see anything else but God. It had to be me and God for a minute. That's what it had to be. But you became codependent on God. You became codependent on God because you were trying to be the pilot, not knowing that God was the only captain on the boat. God was the only captain in the ship. God was the only captain in the plane. Sometimes God has to blind you for a second so he can get the glory. And sometimes God has to remove everybody from your life in order for you to sit down with him. Sometimes solitude and isolation isn't that. It is the intimate time for you and God. Sometimes. See, the thing I know about God is God will never leave you where he found you. He will never leave you broken. He's not coming and saying, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me, and making him blind and just leaving him blind trying to find his way out. He's saying, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And he took away his sight so he can give him crystal clear vision. Because the ultimate goal is for you to work for God because it's souls to be saved. That is the ultimate goal. It's not just to persecute you and say, Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? And say, I'm going to leave you blind. It's Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? Go 3 days and Ananias is going to come and give you sight. And you can see that you've been wandering around in the darkness for too long. You can see that you've been in the wilderness for too long. I never had you here. It was never your destination, but some kind of way you got stuck here. And I got to blind you so you can see clearly on who you are. And I had to let them leave you so you can see clearly on who you are. I had to let them persecute you so you can see clearly who you are. Saul, Saul, your name is Paul. You will no longer persecute. You will no longer be judgmental. You will no longer be fumbling in the dark trying to hold on for dear life. You will no longer be as what you were before. God will never leave you where he found you. He will never leave you bound. He will never leave you abandoned. He will never leave you addicted. He will never leave you in poverty. He will never leave you in your brokenness. He will never, no, never. Imagine if God would have left Paul how he found him, lost and killing Christians. Imagine if he would have left him broken and imprisoned. Imagine if he would have left him bitten, and not just bitten. Imagine if he would have let him be bitten by the venomous snake while everybody watched him. Imagine. Now come with me to Acts 28 and let me read you what God has given me. In Acts 28, it says, now they had escaped, Then they found out that it was an island called Malta, and the natives showed us unusual kindness, for they kindled a fire and made us all welcome. Because of the rain that was falling, and because of the cold, but when Paul had gathered bundles of sticks and laid them on the fire, a viper came out, and because of the heat, it fastened on Paul's hand. When they had got shipwrecked, they already thought that they were going to die. And they said they unchained them, and they said, if you make it to the shore, you make it to the shore. They really didn't care. But Paul knew that God was going to deliver him. Paul always knew that God was going to deliver him. They made it to the shore, and the natives of Malta showed them unusual kindness. See, when the devil thinks that he has an upper hand on you, he'll start being extra nice to you. The boss that don't like you, all of a sudden, he thinks he's about to fire you. He thinks that this is about to be it. So he's real nice to you that day, not knowing that God already went before you, stood beside you and behind you, and he sent his angels already. So when you walked into the job, you probably had a dream about it. You probably had a feeling about it, because God's not going to ever just let you walk into something blind. And the boss is being extra nice because they think they about to let you go. Or the relationship, they think that this is it. Or somebody think they got a leg up on you in life. They think that this is it. So they real nice to you. It said that the natives showed them unusual kindness. It's because they thought he wasn't going to make it anyway. They thought he wasn't going to make it anyway. How many people in your life thought you wasn't going to make it anyway? So they didn't even count you in. You wasn't even in the equation. They counted you out before they even started counting. They didn't even count you in for the promotion. They didn't count you in for the raise. They didn't count you in to be the entrepreneur. None of that. They said that you were absolutely nothing and that you were absolutely going to be nothing. They counted you out before they even tried to count you in. It said that he began to kindle a fire. He gathered the sticks. It says in verse 28, Acts 28. It says, but when Paul had gathered a bundle of sticks and laid them on a fire, a viper came out because of the heat and fastened on his hand. The heat drew out the viper. Now, Paul had been gathering these sticks, and not one time did the viper come out and say, I'm a viper, I'm about to bite you. It's when the heat started getting turned up in the building. When the heat started getting turned up, the viper was blending in just fine. The viper was blending in with the sticks just fine. But God is saying that the heat in your life is about to get turned up and you can no longer be the same. So he's going to have to reveal those snakes that are hiding in plain sight, because if God did not turn the heat up in your life, if God did not cause the heat to turn up in your life, you never would have known that you were sitting there with a bundle of sticks that was actually a venomous snake. He had the sticks in his hand. He began to build the fire. And if you ever built a fire, you know you got to stack the wood up. You can't just throw the sticks down. You got to have it in so when you start the fire will be able to breathe. So he's building the fire. And the snake looks like the stick and is blending in with the wood. And he's about to make the fire breathe. And he's soaking wet from the shipwreck. And he's cold from the shipwreck. And he hasn't even got his thoughts together. All he knows is that he's broken. He was a prisoner. And here comes this storm that he's tried to warn them about. And warning comes before destruction. But they didn't listen. They didn't take heed. And he's sitting here with all of his thoughts. And he escaped one prison to get to the next. And here comes a shipwreck. And now after the shipwreck, it's freezing cold. And these people are being really weird to him. And he's just like, I'm just cold. I don't got time for this. I'm just trying to build this fire. He's gathering these sticks. He's getting this wood. He has a snake in his hand and he doesn't even know it. He's building the fire. He probably has it in a TP shape. And he's getting ready to breathe breath into this fire, and all of a sudden when he puts the lighter they didn't have a lighter, but he put the flame to the fire, the snake fastened unto him. The snake fastened to him. It latched on to him, and he didn't know it was a snake because he had been building the fire. because he was cold and soaking wet, and the snake caught him at a vulnerable time. How many of you have been caught at a vulnerable time? And if it was a snake, it would have bit you. If it was a venomous snake, it would have killed you. But God stepped in. You were too busy trying to pay this bill and pay that bill and hold your head up over here and don't break down over here. And depression is looming and suicide is looming and addiction is looming. And you're over here like, God, I can't get my head out of the water. I'm just trying not to snake the same. And here comes a snake. And it comes in and it tries to take you out. It said a viper. Vipers are venomous. They are venomous and they come to kill. They don't come to play no games. It wasn't a warning bite. It fastened onto him. It had a mission to take him out. The viper wanted to take him out. But God said no. See, the devil can't take what is not his. He has no authority over your life. He has no authority over your life. Therefore, he cannot take your life. He has no authority here. He has absolutely no authority. Let's keep going. It said the viper came out because of the heat and it fastened onto his hand. Verse 4. So when the natives saw the creature hanging from his hand, they said to one another, no doubt this man is a murderer, whom, though he has escaped the sea, yet justice does not allow him to live. He had an audience while he was cold, soaking wet, probably scared and shaken up from the shipwreck, being a prisoner, got the doggone wood together, soaking wet still, gathering his thoughts together still, lighting a fire, getting bit by the snake, and he had an audience of people watching him, hoping that he died. And they already said, oh, sure, he was a murderer. That's why this happened. He escaped the sea, but he can't escape anything. This is his fate. In fact, he was a murderer. In fact, he was a Christian killer. But when God has forgiven it, there's nothing man can do to condemn you. If God has set you free, then you are free indeed. God has set him free. And it don't matter that the sea, it doesn't matter that the sea tried to kill him. It doesn't matter that the sea literally tried to take him out. It does not matter. Because when God is for you, nothing and no one can be against you. It doesn't matter what they say you were. He was indeed a Christian killer. He was indeed a Christian killer. But it could not stop anything. He was indeed a Christian killer. But it's not going to stop what God has for you. God has forgiven him. And if God has forgiven you, nothing and no one can condemn you ever again. So when you see people bringing up your past, let them know that God has forgiven it. God has forgiven it. So how dare you think that you're going to come in and that you're going to take over, you're going to try to take blame and have it back on me when God has let it go. Whenever you think about life, you think about how whenever you like overcome something and then you get back with like a toxic person or something like that, they love to bring up, oh, you used to do this. Oh, you used to do that. That's not the case. Even if I did it, I talked to God and God forgave it. So how dare you bring up my past? How dare you bring up something that God has forgiven me? What about the dust that is in your closet? What about the sins that are literally looming in your closet? What about that? We're not going to talk about that. But you're so quick to come and bring up my sins. We got to first start in our own closet before we go talking about other people. You have to fix you before you can try to put judgment on somebody else. It don't work like that. It don't work like that. God don't operate like that. He had an audience waiting on him to fail. He had an audience literally talking about him failing. They already condemned him. They didn't talk to God about it. They didn't ask God about it. They just said, oh yeah, he was a killer. He was a murderer. Yeah, he escaped the sea, but he's not going to escape the viper. And they're watching him instead of running to his aid. Instead of running to his aid, they're watching him literally have a snake on him, and no one is running over to give him assistance. They're watching him fail in their eyes. That's what they think. People are watching you and hoping that you fail. They see that you're on this new journey called life. They see that you're on this new journey with God, and they're hoping that you fall. They're hoping that you fall. But a just man falls 7 times and rise back up 8. So who are you that if you fall, God won't come get you back up? God will come get you up over and over and over again. And he will do it right in front of the very people that thought that you were nothing. The very people that condemned you. The very people that said you were absolutely going to be nothing. The very audience that stood by while you were falling. Because true love is loving your neighbor as yourself, and you won't let your neighbor fall. You will go help your neighbor up. And who is your neighbor? They watched him fall. They watched him fall. And they were talking about it. They were talking about it. It said, verse 5, Acts 28, verse 5. But he shook off the creature into the fire and suffered no harm. Paul looked at the very thing that came to kill him. He looked at the very thing that came to kill him, and he shook it off. And he shook it off. That's about to be what's about to happen. So many people have been sitting back watching you fail in their eyes. But in God's eyes, you are very obedient. When you look crazy for God, you don't look crazy. They're looking at you like, oh, you on this, you on this. Yeah. I'm really doing what God told me to do. And you can condemn me. And you can say this not going to work. And you can have an audience to talk about me. And you can laugh at me. But when God is for me, nothing and no one can be against me. When God is for me, I don't care who is against me, because if it's God and me, it's me and God. That's it. That's all I need. And I'm going to build this fire. And I need the snakes to jump out when the heat gets heated, because I need you to jump off this boat when the boat get to rocking. Because all I need is a little bit, God. All I need is a little bit, God. And it's me and you, God, has always been. And they can sit back on the sidelines and talk about me, God. They can sit back here and wish death on me, God. They can sit back here and say the plagues hit my household because I'm not this, I'm not that. But God, we gonna shake the devil off. Paul shook that snake off. He shook that viper off. He shook it off. He shook it off. Because when God is for you, no one can be against you, and no weapon formed against you will ever be able to prosper. And it don't matter who's talking about you. They can talk all they want to. It's not going to stop what God has in your life. It's not going to stop it. And Paul didn't even listen to the whispers. Paul didn't even listen to the whispers. He kept going. He kept going. It said, however, they were expecting that he would swell up and suddenly fall down dead. But after they looked for a long time and saw no harm came to him, they changed their minds and said that he was a god. After he was bit, and after they were talking about him, after they was watching him with a close eye, seeing if he would swell up, they still didn't come over and check on him. They still didn't even offer him any assistance. They were still looking at him to see if he was going to swell up. And God says, tell your enemies to look at you again. Because they had to reconsider how they even perceived him. Perception is reality in some people's lives, and they perceived you as gone. But God is saying, my child is not dead. My child is surely alive. And they are about to look at you again. God is saying, look at my children again. You thought they was dead. You thought that they were going to be nothing. You thought that you abandoned him. You thought. But your assumption is not the reality. And God is saying they're about to look at my children again. My children is not dead, baby. My children is surely alive. And the traps that the devil set for my children, the devil is about to fall in themselves. So you can sit back and you can watch the fire, and you can sit back and you can watch the people attack. You can sit back, but you can't stop what God is about to do in his children's lives. God is never going to leave his children where he found them. He's never going to leave you broken. He's never going to leave you bent and beaten by the world. He's never going to let that happen to you. He's never going to allow that to happen. God is saying that I am for you. And because I'm for you, no one can be against you. I am never going to leave you broken. I am never going to abandon you. I am never going to leave you shipwrecked. I am never going to leave you bitten by a venomous snake. I am always right here with you. Always. So they can pull up some chairs and they can get their popcorn and they can put their sunglasses on, but it's not going to stop what I'm going to do for you because I have set it in motion. And the attacks of the enemy are going to happen. And so what? And so what? If you don't look at the attacks in your life and start laughing and saying, I know God is for me. I know because of the size of the attacks that are on my life. Not only have I survived this, I survived this. Not only have I wrestled with the lion, I wrestled with the bear. Not only have I defeated Goliath, I went back for his brothers too. I fought bigger battles in my life to lay down here. And I can't die here. I won't die here. I can't die here. And I won't. And you won't either. I need you to look over your life and understand that God has already set it in motion. And they can sit and they can look and they can speculate and they can spectate and they can assume. But none of that is anything over your life because God has already ordained your life. And if God is for you, no one can be against you. Not even the viper hiding with the branches. Not even the viper blending in with the branches. Not even. Everything has to bow when the name of Jesus is mentioned. And Paul knew who his God was. He's seen him firsthand. God even blinded him for a time period to get his attention. So you can't tell him that God isn't real. So God wasn't worried about the snake biting him. He knew that Paul was still going to be for him. God is saying it's time to shake off the vipers. It is time to shake off the snakes that are blending in. It is time to shake off the weapons that think that they are forming against you. It is time to shake off the enemies that think that they're coming to watch you. It is time for you to shake off the dust off your feet if they're not receiving you. God is saying they're getting ready to look at my children again. They are about to look at my children again. Understand that. You're more powerful than you know. Otherwise, the devil wouldn't come after you anyway. Why would you come after somebody that you already got? That's why you've been attacked your whole life. God is saying, don't you dare give up. Don't you dare give up. I already got a roadmap called success with your name on it. All you got to do is ride the wave. And they can watch. They can watch all they want to. You're not going to die here. This is not your final destination. It never has been. My name is Lindaria Watts. My title is Pastor. I pray that this message was a blessing. You can find me on YouTube at Pastor Lindaria Watts. You can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Lindaria Watts Verified. And you can find me on TikTok at Original Pastor Lindaria. I love you all, and I pray that this was a good message for anybody. And I pray that this was uplifting and encouraging. And I pray that you realize who you are and why the attacks have been so severe in your life. You are somebody. You've always been somebody. And nothing and no one can stop the plan that God has for your life. It is time to shake the snakes off of your life. They can't hurt you. And all the spectators, let them speculate. You are surely living and you will not die. I love you all. Okay, it was 2 takes, y'all, but we did it. We did it. We did 2 takes and so many phone calls later. You guys, I was hitting the, you was recording me?
Yep.
Let me see. What you was doing?
Recording you.
Yo, my son was recording me. I don't even know where I'm at, but yeah, I just had so many phone calls coming in that I was about to lose track, and I put it on Do Not Disturb, but they kept calling in, and so I had to stay focused. It kept hitting decline over here, and then talking to my kids. So I hope I stayed on task good enough. Anyway, I tried. Okay, I gotta take this phone call. I love y'all.